might suck, but also whatever cooks. But if you give us too much shit, we'll just get pissed off and quit. So don't do it. It's time for Marvel Comics Spotlight Show, telling you everything that we know. It's time for Marvel Comics Spotlight Show. Let's go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Weird Science Marvel Comics podcast, where we're going to go through a bunch of books, the big one being The Amazing Spider-Man #1, the Joe Kelly new start. Now, usually I have Matt do the intro with me. I was going to do some expanded things. We had talked about it before. We're going to expand the show a bit, but then all hell broke loose at this house of mine, and we had some issues. We have some issues with cars and all this sort of thing. So I had to come on here and just kind of apologize that we won't be doing news, but I'm going to start doing that. I think I'll try next week because there's not a lot of news or not a lot of books next week, but also the idea that I probably will end up reviewing the Doctor Strange of Asgard, but it probably will be pushed to the next week's podcast. But I did read that. I was ready to go and review it. And then, as I said, I had the whole day of nonsense going on with accidents and rental car accidents and all this other sort of nonsense. So with all that said and done, I hope that you forgive me. We're going to have 3 books tonight, me and Matt talking about Amazing Spider-Man, and then me and Gray talking about both Hulk and Daredevil, 2 books that I had dropped, but I'm back on. So at least we added those. And as I said, next week, and you'll hear at the end, I will be back at the end to give you a little rundown of what is coming up next week, but there's not a lot. There's not a lot at all. So we'll probably be talking about the Doctor Strange of Asgard, which was a better issue than the first issue. So at least we have that. But with all that, we're going to go off to The Amazing Spider-Man, a book that, there's not a lot of hype behind, but I hope that some people out there do like it a little more than I did, but we'll go to that right about now. And we're going to start with The Amazing Spider-Man #1, the big new #1. I'm here with Matt. What up, Matt?
What up, Jim?
What up? Here we are. The Amazing Spider-Man #1. And you're here to convince me that I need to kind of wipe my memory of everything that we've had recently. Here's the thing, though. We were talking beforehand, talking about the 8 deaths and things like that. And you had told me the idea, well, if you wipe your mind of that, maybe you'd like this more. But then also, we were worried that the 8 deaths was going to end up making us, not that excited for this. So it kind of goes both ways. But we'll talk about this.
It's not doing anybody any favors at 8 deaths. Just
no.
That way.
And the one thing, though, I don't know. I don't know if I'm mad that it doesn't even reference it at all.
I don't know.
Or should I be glad that it doesn't? It'd be one thing if it was like the idea where it wasn't Joe Kelly involved, but he was involved. And then you come into this, and even characters like Randy seem different. Like Nay seems to be, everybody seems like they have lost their complete minds of what just happened. But I don't know. It is written by Joe Kelly, art by Pepe Larraz, colors by Marta Garcia, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. And I think that one of the bigger things that for me is just the idea, and you said it, I've read this issue before, I think. The idea where it is the same thing when they go to a new #1, you get that Peter trying to get a job, and they reference his old things, and then you go and it just feels like Nick Lowe just thinks, we could just keep recycling this stuff over and over and over, and it's starting to get really, really noticeable when they complain that people don't want, Peter to mature or have any sort of thing getting older. And that's with the whole Mary Jane stuff like that. But the idea of him kind of going to get a job, it's still kind of that sad sack. Oh, that Parker Luck. And I think that this was a little overdone at the beginning too, with him and this job business. Again,
Yeah, I think anybody with Parker Industries on their resume is not going to have trouble getting a job.
yeah, and except
that was a
for
big
here,
deal, as big as Apple or something.
again, except this guy who was the first guy who was like, man, this is a great little resume, and I lost effing millions. Like he trapped Peter to come here to yell at him, and I think that Joe Kelly thinks that's hilarious. But also in that, you see people taking selfies. Hey, say rescue, and I'm like, I don't know.
It's almost like he's a spectacle. He's not really. These aren't serious job interviews. They're just making fun of him, kind of.
And even at one point, it's like, hey, we got the startup, hands on, bro. And then Peter's like, I am hands on, bro. And I don't know. Just to go into this, and I've said it before. I don't really like Joe Kelly's writing. Everything that he's done in the past, whatever years, when he had that Unstoppable Spider-Man, I hated it. Savage Spider-Man, I thought was unreadable. And then unreadable became even more unreadable when he did that recent Wolverine Deadpool WW3. That was so bad. So when you get into this,
I totally agree with what you said.
So when you get into this, he did end up in interviews saying, I want to get Peter back to the fun, quippy Peter. I'm like, he didn't ever leave that. It's just the level of quippiness that you're going to do. And I still think that Joe Kelly is more of a Deadpool writer with his quippy. There's not that much in this, though I think that Joe Kelly has some scenes in this that end up like everything smushed together to get at the end that I felt like not much overall happened for a first issue. You're setting up a couple of villains possibly and some weird thing with Rhino, but overall with Spider-Man, he almost just kind of like gets pushed through scenes. And at the end, I don't really get what his Peter is going to be because he's doing these job interviews. And then you have one where they're like, hey, everybody's watching. Well, you are a geeky celeb who worked for Norman Osborn. What do you think about working for him? Well, it was challenging. And they all start laughing. And he's like, come on, dudes, be professional, guys. And I'm like, all right. And then he gets a text from Spider-Boy. Which, you just mentioned Spider-Boy. That's okay.
I thought we were going to turn the page and see him, but we don't.
Yeah, actually. And what ends up happening with Rhino, I thought you could have kind of pushed that in with Spider-Boy. Spider-Boy could have been the guy who was trying to do that because he does say, hey, I'm doing something. I'm going to do this. This isn't a big villain. But then Peter has to leave. Says, oh, my aunt's. But then he goes and talks to Aunt May later. And the idea of everything that's happened recently, and Peter's like, yeah, the old luck, can't really get a job. And she's like, it's fine. I like having you around for some time. I'm like, no, Aunt May, you have talked about this. Peter needs a job. I mean, he hasn't been able to get a job, and he has been the sad sack, no job all through 8 Deaths, where you did even have right before that Shay, throwing shade at him and, hey, you got to get this job and whatnot. But he still can't see it. But
I think the biggest part of this scene with Aunt May is that she now lives in an apartment in Queens, not a house anymore, and I don't know that that's been established before.
Yeah, she's there, and he's
helping her decorate.
So
you would think you would say, "Hey, I'm here to help you with your new apartment, May."
Well, and if she is living in an apartment, it's amazing because Peter has really lost all of her money 8 times recently. So you got that. Also,
well, we all know that she's embezzling from Feast.
No, probably that Feast deal. Yeah, really. What is happening? If people would know the reference. Not paying Christina's dad for that work, using it to then get an apartment here in the deal. But Peter doesn't know what tortellini is. Even that was really is that supposed to be funny?
Riesling, tortellini, and the Real House Husbands of Nova Scotia.
Husbands of Nova Scotia. And he's like, all three sound made up, and then says, if tortellini is just fancy stuffed pasta, I'm in. I'm like, okay, that's
I want
a
some
weird
tortellini
play.
now. That's so,
yeah, I like tortellini, but a weird play for somebody who lives in New York and things like that. But it just seemed a little odd.
You failed as a parent.
Again, though, I don't know. That seems to be Joe Kelly thinks that's funny, and
there are so many more obscure pastas that you could use.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But the whole play is that he got a job. He gets the deal. Oh, my God. Rand Corporation is hiring him as supervising engineer of cooperative disciplines. I'm sure that that's supposed to be the joke of almost add a bunch of titles and it means nothing. We really don't know what it means yet. We'll see. And I think that will be oh, here's your mop and, broom or something. And like, what? I thought I was going to be this. But he ended up getting this job because when he went to the interview, it was with this guy who he was friends with as a kid. Aunt May knows this guy is kind of bad news.
Mhm.
She all of a sudden turns gets ugly face. And really? She does?
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
Oh, my goodness. And it's this guy who they got in a lot of, crazy pranks and things nearing.
And you notice they say middle school too, because his high school stuff's pretty well documented, but nobody's ever shown any middle school thing.
Yeah, so it's this guy, and the weird play of it is that Peter says, I haven't really thought of you in a long time. I don't want to be mean or anything, but what's going on? The guy's like, well, I haven't really thought either. And it's that shady gray area that we'll have to see what's going on. But he seems like a goofball, even when they go to have this interview. He goes to talk to this lady, and then Peter sees that, unfortunately, Rhino is running by, and he's got to jump outside, and he misses the interview. So he thinks that he didn't get the job, but instead he actually did. Still, they're going to do it the next day. It looks like he's going to get that job. But when Rhino runs by, he's just rampaging through. The thing is, you're right. When we were talking about this, Rhino doesn't say anything, but Peter just shows up. First off, Peter won't shut up. He webs his face and then ends up just hitting him with a truck door. This can only take 5 seconds. I mean, this is boom, boom, boom. And then he says, man, Rhino's not acting right. I wish there was a little more of it than just Rhino, just for what would be like.
I mean, I would just say Peter didn't give him a chance to talk. He's yapping so much.
He's like, man, he's not acting right. In the Zeb, it was the end of Zeb Wells' run. This almost same scene happened where Rhino, and it's always when Peter is doing something important. That was Shay and his first
date. They were on a date, yeah.
And
yeah.
Rhino runs by, and then he goes out, and he was with Screwball. Now, he was talking, and they're doing things, and that's when Peter went as Peter Parker and said, hey, dude, I'm friends with Spider-Man. Could you just calm down? I'm on a date. Could you just kind of let me have a date? And they kind of walked away then. But in this, it's just, I don't know. And even Peter, when he goes down, he says to this truck driver, I mean, this poor guy, he's like, hey, do you have any emotional attachment to this truck? And he's like, yeah. After 20 years, he's like, oh, sorry then. And then just rips the door off. And then smashes it, and then picks the truck up. I don't even know that I saw the guy really get out, but he ends up smashing the truck on Rhino, just destroys it on him, and then says there's a double-decker bus. I mean, the idea that Rhino has a heart attack, it seems, or it's almost,
because you dropped a truck on him. Yeah.
And the guy, I mean, I don't think, he's kind of muscular, whatever, but he's a big dude. Like, big dudes, they have, heart problems. And he's trying to get it, and you have that deal where he says it's like giving concrete CPR. It's okay. But again, everything seems a little rushed and a little bit like we're not going to stick around for much, but you got to kind of put 2 and 2 together because he's trying to do this. And he's like, oh my God, I've done all these things, but not hearing a heartbeat's the worst. And it seems like he did get him, back, which at the end, I didn't think he did. And then you whoosh over to Kingsley Tower for Roderick Kingsley, who has been the Hobgoblin, and he's talking about these markers that they do have. There seems to be a drug that they have from Kingsley Unlimited that are in some villains, whatever it would be, that tells them where they were from, but also I don't know. It must be something that I don't know. You know what I mean? If they said, well, he took it for this reason, because there's no reason. Say you said it was steroids. There's no reason Rhino would need that, right? I mean, the guy's strong as hell. Like, what is the drug itself? And do they know? And it's kind of like, it seems like it's just like markers that they put in that he's not even aware of. But I don't know what that means or what they're going to do with it. And the idea where they say, oh, Rhino, he's from that district, District 11? Oh, man, I thought he was worth a little more. We'll probably hire him. But if anything with Ravencroft, because that's where they took him, if they discover anything about these markers, then we'll intervene.
Yeah, this page was tough for me. These two pages, it's just we don't have enough information, and it's just
and it's just setting up stuff. But then you have Roderick. Then this guy's leaving. It says, "Hey, hit the lights, buddy," and he turns up the lights, and then you do see through the the reflection, Roderick and Hobgoblin, because he is. But then also there seems to be this shadowy figure. I don't know who it is. And he may end up showing up a little bit later when Peter goes to investigate, because they even say Spider-Man doing this, he has a connection with Rhino, and he may end up investigating. And I thought, I don't know. I mean, I think that what he would more do is go and try to see if Rhino was okay in Ravencroft. And he's been in and out of Ravencroft a lot. And Shay has that connection. Yeah. I think that that's what you should have probably done. But instead, he's going to break into Rhino's apartment to see what's going on. Now, after this, then we head off to date night. And Randy is doing some online dating. And he's picked the most annoying lady ever. First off, it looks like she just came from, Bourbon Street. She's got like 800 things around her neck, right?
Yeah, she's hammered. And you know how you get the beads.
Oh, yeah. She's been showing some things. But she's annoying. And then in that, you then have Peter and Shay are like, to swiping right. And then Peter goes, to not accidentally picking the jelly bean booger bean. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Again, this seems like it's Joe Kelly's dialogue. I just don't like it. I don't like it. It seems weird. It never really hits. And a lot of times to me, it feels like he's either trying to be too funny or he's trying to talk to the youngsters, to the young kids. But even at one point, as they're talking, Peter says, yeah, I had to leave, this interview. I didn't get to get it. But, my buddy, he's like what's it called? I can't remember what he says. The idea that, he's looking out for me. Mm-hmm. And says he ended up getting the idea that I had all sort of colitis. And she's like, you had diarrhea? All right.
He's like, been there.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah. And he's like, never mind. And then Shay's snorting and says, oh, that guardian angel is what I'm trying. This guy's my guardian angel. And then there's Randy. I wish I had a guardian angel. I'm still waiting for Randy to say, you spent all my money was lost on that stupid gallery crap that you made me do, Peter, and I have nothing. But it's like now he's back to just being social worker deal, and there you go. And they have this date, and it's just to show you that Shay and Peter are still together, but they're on probation. And then at one point, Randy yells, check, please, God, check. And the lady like face plants back, probably broke her neck. I'm telling you, it's like, I don't get what we're doing here. It just feels like, I don't know why. It feels to me as if Joe Kelly comes on and thinks, and Nick thinks everything is going so great with all these runs. And it has been god awful for years. And it's just like, just do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. It'll just be goofy.
Yeah,
and do this.
I think the running joke will be every time you see Randy, it'll be a different girl.
Yeah, it'll be a different girl. And he'll always yell, check, please.
It'll be something like that, for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. But Peter goes and he goes to break and enter into Rhino's apartment. He ends up saying Rhino hasn't been that bad recently, which we have seen that, but he's been jumping around and doing, weird stuff and whatever, but says, hey, maybe I can find, if I open the refrigerator, I don't think I'll find the Rhino there. What is he looking for? Like, he is there, but there's nothing there. And he's kind of just like, oh, well, my spider sense is a little bit going off, whatever. And then it seems like you have whatever that shadowy figure was.
Yeah, he's in the background, or a bunch of them.
He's in the background and makes him just freak out like he's being attacked by all of his villains of all time.
Mysterio is in the middle, so I think it's him doing something.
Yeah, so it might be, but why would he have to be in the dark? It almost felt like you ended up having Kingsley say, hit the lights because he needed to be in the dark for this figure, but maybe it was just so we didn't know who it was. But when he's talking to him in the thing, it doesn't quite look like a deal, or is it just Goblin? I don't know.
I think the Kingsley thing might be separate from this.
Yeah, it's just weird because you still have that shadowy figure that looks like
it. But there's a bunch of them, which are, I guess.
Yeah, and you had him say that they have to keep an eye on Spider-Man because Spider-Man may look into this. I don't know. Yeah, it says the Rhino has no clue what he did to his own body, and the staff at Ravenclaw aren't winning it, but said that Spider-Man may be a problem. And says, suspicion may trigger investigation. And they said, will it be a problem if I add him to your to-do list? And the guy doesn't say anything. And he says, that's an unsettling pause. He says, sorry, quick self-check. I promise never to lie. I'll give him the treatment he deserves in a most professional manner. So it seems like he's going off to screw with Spider-Man. So I don't know. But at the end, yeah, you see a bunch of the villains there attacking. I like Hammerhead has a hammer. He's there. He's going to hit him over the head. I don't know that
he uses a hammer.
Yeah, I guess he does.
Uses his stupid head.
Yeah, I know. Look at him. He's there. And some of these, I mean, you have classic Goblin, and all
better not be any more Craven nonsense.
So, yeah. But you have all that there. We'll see what that means. You even have some Venom. Yeah, Venom. Is it Mary Jane? So we'll see.
Is Venom in here?
Yeah, Venom's there, like on the top, kind of in the middle, right next to Craven. I think he's right there. He's kind of weird. Everybody's like dissipating and flying around and stuff like that.
That's Carnage, like Venom
right there. I don't know. I can't tell because
Carnage.
Yeah, well, there you go. Carnage is there. I couldn't tell because of the idea that it's just all just black and white and red.
It's weird. I want to say that the last, not that page, but the 2 pages before where Spidey breaks and enters, which is weird. It's dark and they use that spider light, which I haven't. Just I think it's really cool. It's weird
though because you have it, but it doesn't even I like when you actually see the spider.
It's there a little
symbol
bit.
A little on that one wall, but
I just like how it's dark and that the lights up. I think
everything
it's cool.
in it though. I swear they don't take time to really go with anything. I
like 70% of the art. Some of the faces are weird. I'm also a little burned out with. I like Pepe Larraz. I like them a lot, but we got him a lot with those Jed McKay like Blood Hunt and stuff, and it just reminds me of that so much.
Yeah. So that's the main story. Then you have a couple backups with John Romita Jr. on art, and the one is Norman, and he's having a press conference. What is this, the 8th time that he's given up Oscorp? Because at one point he gave it to Peter, Spider-Man, all that, but he's going to resign. And then some guy just gets up. This is the weirdest press conference where he says, hey, everybody, I'm here. I've had some really bad times. I'm not the greatest of guys. So, and he's gonna resign. And yet some guy jumps up who looks like he's like a cyborg and says, my wife, she's dead and you killed her. And then they attack. And then Norman, during a press conference, and I mean, people are aware who he is. He just beats the crap. And it's like, you don't do this in my house. Like, it's not a good optics there. Even if he is getting attacked there, Norman, it's not a really good, but everybody seems to like not react to that. They're like, oh man, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like,
Norman is jacked, man.
Yeah, he's like, and he just goes and he's like, this is you dare attack me in my house. And then they're like, why did you do this? Was it a joke or was it set up? And he's like, I was going to resign, but now I'm not, because he remembers Peter saying, you got to do good. And, you were Goblin, but you could do better and do this. So all of a sudden this guy attacking him is like, yeah, I don't think I'll resign. I think I'll go. But I still think that people be like, yeah, he's a little bit odd. Yeah, he got attacked by this guy, but the guy did. I mean, first off, I'd say if I was a reporter, did you kill that guy's wife? And then you find out, yeah. And then why didn't you get security? Like, you ended up just pretty much hitting him to an inch of death and then just walked away.
Well, I did appreciate this line, though. Just the crazy guy goes, you are everything wrong with this country. A literal monster who lives above the law because of wealth.
Yeah, there he is.
So I'm like, this is actually the hero of the story, this guy.
Yeah. And then Norman beats the living crap at him. I mean, the guy's right. There's no reason why Norman should be, having a press. Hey, look at me. And like, you are the worst. And
not the best John Romita Jr. art though either. Like when he's like saying Sic Semper Monstrum or whatever, that thing looks like a monster. I don't know.
I mean, that arm. It's like falling apart.
It's like a big sausage arm.
Yeah, it was like really odd, and everybody's reacting. Oh my god! And then I guess Norman's supposed to be the hero, but he's not. That guy was. And then after the full deal, even when you have the next, then you have another backup, and this one just sets up what's supposed to be the villain coming up, and it's this Hellgate guy. And I don't know that I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get from this, but it's this. I was so confused of what was going on at first, where you have in Arizona, where you have this, looks like an academic kind of like archaeology sort of thing. And then this other guy shows up and he's like, hey, and they're like, oh my God, there's that conspiracy theory guy. Hermes. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. And he's like, hey, everybody says that these these big, buttes are actually trees and they have the energy through them. And then they're all laughing at him. Hey, he's harmless. And then the thing blows up. And then this guy seems like he's the only one who survives and sees the
I was right. It's true. It's all true.
Yeah, he's like, it's true. Oh, my God. And then it says to be continued. But I don't know. It's, again, even to talk about it was just, you go from this scene to that scene to this scene to that scene. It has to settle down and start telling a story. This is the first issue. But for me, this isn't like I read this and said, all right, now we're going somewhere different or good or better. It just was all scattered in my mind to set up something weird. And I don't give Joe Kelly a pass from that 8 deaths. And I don't give him a pass from all the other crap that I've read recently. So I really needed to be wowed by this. And I was not. I wasn't wowed by it. I like the art, but I think there might be too much going on and not enough. It's just a weird play. But we'll see. It can settle down and be something pretty cool. But I think that he can't get out of his own way. Like you said about Randy, like I don't need to see like that scene. You didn't need it. That was him trying to be funny. And it was just a waste, especially with big things going on. And it was more about that girl that was there from
it just shows you that he's still dating.
Yeah, dating. But he did that the last issue of, and it's for new people, whatever. You could have just had them at Aunt May's eating. If she's moving into that apartment, have them there for tortellini. Have them there and he could make his tortellini joke, but have them with that. Or when Peter shows up, because remember, Shay was hanging out with Aunt May too. And we thought that was trouble. But this kind of like, hey, look, this is what all the, the young go-getters in the city do. They have the dates. And it just felt weird. It just felt odd. But I'm sure other people will disagree. But what would you give it?
I'm going to give this my score is going to have a big asterisk next to it, with meaning it is going to fall off a cliff if I don't like the next issue. But I'll give this one the positive benefit of the doubt.
I knew you were going to give it a 7. I'm a 6. I'll give it the benefit, but I'm going to give it a 6. I'm trying
to erase the 8 death stuff out of my head.
I'm telling you, you have to erase the Zeb Wells stuff. Like you have to come in here.
All of that. I want something.
You have to come in and really boom. And I'm telling you, there's nothing in this that made me say, "Oh my God, I can't wait for that." And we're in the first issue. We're supposed to be wowed. I'm not like, oh, Roger Kingsley. Oh, there you go. We got the Hobgoblin. And then we got this thing in the shadows. And then Rhino. And even the idea of setting up, well, he has a marker. He doesn't know what he did to himself. And this shows us where he's from. And I thought he had more money. That's not very interesting. If it was him doing something crazy and all of a sudden he's like saying to Peter, like, help me. I did this. And there's a mystery, but we kind of already know that Kingsley is doing this, but why and what? And I guess that's the mystery, but it's just thrown at you like that. And I don't really care about him getting a job. You could have started this with him just saying, oh my God, I got a job. How'd you get a job? Well, my old friend. Like there's a lot of these things that feels like you could have gotten to better things by just cutting to the chase, but then you spend a time with this date for no reason. I don't know. I guess you have to set up the new status quo and things like that. So it just was odd. But yeah, after he saved the world, I guess, from the blight and all that.
And came back from the dead. That's a big deal.
It might have been one thing to just like mention one thing. And normally I would say, well, it doesn't matter. But it was his story. It was weird. But yeah, I wanted to be wowed. And I think that
find out it was Nick Lowe's story and he didn't really want to write it.
Well, he was still doing it. And the idea, like, we're at a point with Spider-Man that they have to, like, you have to wow people. I mean, I'm talking wow people. Like, this has to be a first issue that when it's done, you're like, holy shit, I never thought that would happen. Or, oh my God, can you believe that was that?
Yeah.
And yet, like I said, the play that I keep thinking and how I'm trying to explain it is they just like, hey, everything's going great. Just ease into things. And, Hellgate sounds cool. Like, we'll get a little bit of that. Let's give them dribs and drabs. You need to have something in this that is like, holy crap, now it's different. They're not doing the same thing. It's going to be different. But that whole thing with the getting the job, that I've seen that scene a million times. And that's how you start it. And it just felt, here we go again. here we go again. And hopefully, I guess, maybe if you like Joe Kelly, you'll have a little more confidence. But I think
I think they're going to dive deeper into his relationship with him in middle school, too. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, I guess.
So if you're not ready for that, then you're not going to like it.
And again, it's weird because it's the idea that they were doing pranks and getting in fights or whatever.
I think they're going to show that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know where else you go except by just showing because, again, I kind of get what they were, but I don't know. I think that this guy, I don't know, because he seems like a goof. Like I said, Peter disappears and this lady who he calls Doc, she's like, okay, where is he? He's nowhere. I don't know. And then he says, oh, never mind. She goes, are you seriously wasting time messing around, Nearing? After that last review? Like, why would you then hire somebody based on his recommendation? And then I am a slow to learn, ma'am. All right.
We're going to be seeing a lot of this guy. So
yeah.
Buckle up.
I have a feeling that this guy might be not long for the world. That something might happen to him, and Peter will have to react to that. But I don't know. I don't know. Going through it, I just wasn't wowed as much as I was expecting or hoping to be. But we'll see what other people think. But that's what me and you deep dive. Exhaustive deep dive. There's not even really anything to deep dive into, really. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been better without two backups. Maybe you make the first story a little longer.
Yeah, because it is a first issue. I would get the idea. Okay, let's, develop this stuff and get a little bit more.
It's not even much of a cliffhanger. It's like the cliffhanger is just art.
And both of those have nothing, as of yet, don't even have anything to do with Peter. Peter is in that little flashback with Norman saying, hey, Norman, you could do good.
Yeah.
But it's not really based on that. We'll have to see how that goes. Obviously, Hellgate will probably just walk to New York. I don't know, from Arizona. Maybe Peter will have to go, west. I don't know how that'll play out, but we'll see.
He'll stop over in York for a while.
Nah, really, that place. He better not go. I mean, that's the thing. They actually
That's where the Hellgate really
They have a parade each year where they're like, the guy who actually renovated that crap hole York is when he ended up blowing it up. Nothing came from that either. That's the best. Remember, he was on the run. The feds were on him, and then I think they did realize, they're like, it was York, whatever. We should give the guy a medal.
But I mean, I think I would have genuinely liked this. Maybe you too, better if it actually was elsewhere, York, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that would have been
and
great.
That's where the Hellgate is.
It kind of did remind me a bit of that when this Hellgate thing opened. That would be funny if it kind of had to do with that, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens. And old Shay and Peter are back together. Aunt May has an apartment. Randy is bad at picking dates.
Oh, guess what, though? You didn't notice the letters, the email address is back.
Oh, is it? So, there you go. See, that just proves it because now, but it'll go. It'll leave. Once I
need you to write one.
They're like thinking now that, things will go better now. We could put that in. I don't have to fake it anymore. God darn it. But yeah. Always, here's one from Lee Michael Roberts. Actually, these are like the last ones that Nick Lowe wrote himself. And then to go forward, I'm like, okay, here we go. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. And hopefully it gets better. Hopefully it's something that I really thought it was going to wow me, but it did not. So 6 and a 7 for the new one. But still, we'll see. We shall see.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to move on. We don't have a ton of books this week. There's not a lot of books, and we figured we would do this a little extra longer. I believe we'll be going and talking to Gray about the Daredevil and Incredible Hulk. I'm going to pick those back up and see how those are, and we'll do all that next. And I'm here with Gray. What up, Gray?
Hey, what up, Jim? How you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Here we are. Early in the morning for me, late at night for you. That's the game we play. But we have 2 books. And again, like last week, these are 2 books that I had kind of fell off on. I had been reading Hulk in and out, but I kind of completely gave up with Daredevil because that, 7 Deadly Sins, which I do have to mention once again, that I knew right away that's what it was. And I have the receipts to prove it. From back in the day. People don't even know really like what that fight is all about, where people
You'll never let people forget.
Oh my God. People ended up screaming and yelling at the beginning of that with the idea of what Sloth, how he was depicted, and they didn't get what was going on. But even so, I ended up like, this is not really for me. And I ended up kind of, phasing out of that book. I dropped it. And then
I
every
dropped it, Jim,
time
too.
I went
Can you
to, yeah,
believe? 19 parts. 19
that's what I'm saying.
parts of the
Every
first
time
story arc.
I jumped in to see, okay, what's this new arc? Oh, wait, it's not a new arc. It's 19 parts of that Seven Deadly Sins. I lost interest early. Some people
Yeah.
had said that it ended up pretty strong. So that's pretty cool. And the
Indeed, that's when I jumped back
ramifications go
in.
forward. Yeah. So I ended up catching up on that. Now, speaking of 19 parts, Hulk just said, hold my beer, because this is 24 parts pretty much. We end up having the continuing story of the Hulk and Charlie. Charlie, who I liked at first again, but everything runs through Charlie in this book. And I kind of am a little bit tired of that. And looking at the sales at one point, it was doing fairly well. The sales that we get aren't definitive sales numbers, but they are from a bunch of stores, and it's not in the top 50. Neither is Daredevil, but I think that hasn't been for a while. But at one point, Hulk was doing, pretty good. But with this, if you go 24 parts and you're still dealing with, Hulk, Banner, and Charlie, I think that's how we're going to go the full deal. And my guess is this ends about 30 issues. We have a big 25 next issue, and I think we're going to get a bit of a stretch run. But even so, nowadays, 30-issue run, not bad.
It's pretty
Not
good
bad
these
for,
days, yeah.
for what we get nowadays. And it is a pretty, focused run, I guess, on Charlie, Hulk, and Banner. So if you're into that, it's a lot of trades for it. But what I kept saying, even when, I was reviewing it, and now it's so many issues later, is the idea that we just keep ping-ponging around the U.S. We're down in New Orleans, then we're off to Vegas. Now we're back to New York. Now we're here. And it just keeps going. And again, we got to do things for Charlie, which is fine. That's the way that it's based. But I kind of, thought maybe we could mix it up a little, but we're probably not going to. So we're going to jump into that first. Into this, The Incredible Hulk, number 24, Blood Magic, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, Kev Walker on art, Matthew Wilson on colors, VC's Corey Petit on letters, and Kev Walker's art is pretty good. There's some odd panels. There's one that you sent me, just this face of the Hulk that just looks very, very odd.
It made me laugh.
Odd. Yeah, it is. And so we had the idea, you have Lycana and the whole skin suit, skin bug, the whole thing that's going on with Charlie, and Banner is taking her to Doctor Strange to magically help out. Maybe this can be solved. The thing is, Charlie doesn't really want it to be solved. We find that out very quickly, but we also find out that Banner is not up on the times. Even this week, it's kind of a funny play of synergy. Dr. Strange is in Asgard. He's not the Sorcerer Supreme anymore. That's Dr. Doom. And the whole idea of them going to see Dr. Strange, Stephen isn't there. Clea is, which I'm actually glad Clea is kind of there. She is, but in a different, what I mean? We'll see the twist here. But
it's a nice surprise, and it gives us one of the best lines in the book, doesn't it, Jim? When they first meet her, "Ooh, you're a lot bustier than I thought you'd be."
Charlie is very inappropriate. When you have the stuff with Doctor Strange, Asgard, when you have Doctor Doom, I kept saying, "Where's Clea?" Because Clea's a Sorcerer Supreme herself, not of Earth. But the whole play of this is, why isn't she with Stephen? What's she doing? What's happening? Well, it seems like she's just kind of hanging in the Sanctum Sanctorum. And when they do come and knock, she's there to say, "Oh, nice of you to drop in." But Stephen, he's doing other things. And it's weird, the idea that you don't spell out a little more. I guess that's just to keep, even if it's later on, this isn't trade 10 years from now, it's easier to just say, "Hey, I dealt with you at one point, Banner, see Defender 71. And then, hey, Stephen's up to other things." I actually thought that Clea would say, "What, haven't you turned on the news? Dr. Doom, he's the big deal. Where are what happened? What's going on?"
Wait a minute.
So he has been kind of, out and about doing his little thing with Charlie. So he hasn't really heard things, I guess. But you end up, and I like Clea. So I was like, "Oh, this is cool." I hope that Clea ends up kind of joining up. There is a twist that I guess if you are a Clea fan, you might be a little upset with it. And also the idea of the Sanctum Sanctorum and everything that this means, because Clea says, "Okay, I'm going to help Charlie. I know this stuff. Oh, Lycana, this is pretty bad stuff. I'm going to help Charlie. But in the meantime, Bruce, you're going to have to go in this drawing room. Stephen ended up making this for you in case you came to the Sanctum Sanctorum, and it's this place where there's no Gamma. Gamma has no play here, so you can't possibly become the Hulk. And I'll give it to you then, because at this point, I didn't think anything of this. I thought it was kind of weird that Stephen took a little time out to make a banner room, but I guess it makes sense in case, you're ever on a team with him again and all these things if he had to come here. But I didn't really see the twist coming. And it's weird when Banner realizes that it has happened, I didn't quite get that he's like, oh no, what's going on, Clea? And then all of a sudden he gets attacked. But I'll give it to you because that's when, Charlie goes off with Clea and Banner goes into this drawing room.
It's weird, Jim. Do you think, like, fans of Clea, people who know Clea pretty well, would they have been able to spot that something was off with her? Because I didn't get it at all.
I don't think so.
It worked for me, the twist.
Yeah, and with that, the weird play I'd have is if this was a regular run that you maybe there is some tell. I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
But Saladin Ahmed just writing her here without knowing how he would write her normal, I think it's almost impossible. You know what I mean? Like if Clea was in the run already and she was like real happy, which she isn't, but the idea where we saw what she was like before, but every writer writes somebody different. So I didn't see anything. And when he realizes oh my God, Clea, no, how? Like, I didn't get it. And then there's a page turn of the reveal. I just thought, all right, what's happening? We turn the page and but I'm thinking that maybe people would be upset that Clea seemingly was taken down.
Yeah, also, how did that thing have the power to get into the Sanctum Sanctorum?
That's the big thing when I said about the Sanctum. Yeah, how did they get in there? And how did they do all these things in the Sanctum? And if you say maybe that it's because Doctor Strange isn't there and he's no longer the Sorcerer Supreme, I don't know. It felt weird. It felt a little forced to
Bruce
have
gets
this
trapped
happen.
in the drawing room, and suddenly there are like werewolves coming out of the walls.
Yeah,
oh my God,
they're just coming out of the walls. And so this is the thing. Clea's been taken down. And, this is it's a dupe. It ends up being the whole play of, oh my God, Clea's got, and I thought Clea would come back and
I wasn't sure what it was. Charlie just says, "Oh, you're one of them. You're from is it Lycana? Lycana's cult?
Yeah, and
cult
also
members.
it's Lycana's cult, which also goes with the big play of everything in this. And they want the Godskin. There's the Skinwalkers, but also again, if you're reading this book, you know that anything that happens, the eldest is sure to be mentioned or followed, and it's the eldest once Ben. Oh, the eldest this. So you keep having all of that. Kind of what got me a little bored with the run. And most people who keep on with this book, they're not telling me, oh my God, it's a must read. They're kind of saying, well, I want to see how this works out. And it's always pretty good.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like when I read
the art has always been pretty good. When it's been Nick Klein, isn't it? When he's on the book, it's fantastic.
Danny Earl's not the greatest. And I think that Kev Walker is a little bit better suited. Some of the Danny Earl stuff had actually improved, I thought. But even so, it's Nick Klein's art that when I said for so long when I was reading it, earlier, it all looked like a 70s blacklight poster, like everything. It's so neon and glowing, and the colors they pop, excuse me. The idea, I always do read it. I read digitally, so I read on the tablet. And one of the things I do like about a tablet is the colors will pop when you end up, going through it. But I'm sure it looks great.
The credits pages always look good on this, don't they? The Incredible Hulk, we talk about that, the kind of black light thing.
I always like the covers as well. Yeah. And even that, you see the cover, it's kind of a cool play because you have Clea kind of fighting Hulk. So you're wondering, okay, when she puts him in that room, you're thinking that Hulk's going to cause the problem. But the big problem is these werewolves, these wolfmen. I wish I had the deal. And the whole play with the Godskin and the Lycana and all these things going on where Banner realizes, oh my God, I'm done. He's begging for the Hulk to come out. And those are always a cool play. Like Banner and Hulk, in this especially, they're really against each other.
The last panel we see of Banner, and it is just Banner, isn't it, on his own with no power. The last thing we see is like, oh my God, the wolves have got him. He's got an arm up in the air, and we hear this rip sound.
He's done.
That's it. And then we jump to Charlie.
Exactly. There was one bit of this, too, that I did like. at one point where Charlie does finally say to Banner, listen, I kind of, I'm better friends with the Hulk. And she is, because she's she's a fangirl of the Hulk. The Hulk was always to her. She wants to be strong like the Hulk is the big problem. And the idea where she felt vulnerable, she was abused, all these things going on, her brother, all the problems where she thought, if I was as strong as the Hulk, and the Hulk really is taken to her. But Banner likes her as well, but she's been more of a Hulk girl. And she even says, listen, I know me and Hulk are kind of closer, but when this is done, maybe we could go and check out some things. I've never been to New York, and it was really nice setting up.
She actually thanks him, didn't she? She thanks Bruce, which was a surprise. It was nice to see that.
Yeah, I thought that was
Charlie. I'd like that.
That was my favorite part. That was actually my favorite part. Now, in that, like, Kev Walker, I think, does better with the horrific stuff in this at points than at one point it does look like. First off, it looks like Grommets a bit. The art from Grommets, if you're reading it, where Charlie and Banner at the beginning.
I love Grommets. No disrespect to Grommets.
Yeah,
I'm not fitting with the Hulk book, does it?
It's not a diss. I'm saying it really looks like Banner. Banner looks like he could be like the lead singer of Foreigner. And then you have Charlie, who looks straight up from Gromit. So it's pretty good.
That's skateboard, dude.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good-looking Banner. But yeah, when he realizes he's done and he's begging for the Hulk, but the Hulk can't arrive. The Hulk's done. It's this room with the Gamma. It's no Gamma. So that's it. The Banner's legit. Banner gets eaten and dead. He's done. And while that's going on, Clea is still playing the guise that it's Clea. And she ends up like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Hey, and Charlie's doing that like nervous talk, like, you guys living here? There's a bedroom and stuff. Oh yeah, down below, it's fine, whatever. And then you end up where
this isn't just your creepy magic studio, is it?
and I like when
like yours, Jay. That's where you're recorded now, isn't it?
Exactly. I'm right there. I'm in the Sanctum Sanctorum here. I wouldn't think it was that fancy. And even earlier, they mentioned a bunch of like, oh man, there's like stuff you can't. I thought that was the setup for when you get this big fight, that you're going to end up having Charlie pick up a sword, like Excalibur will be pulled out of a bookcase or something. You do, set these things up, but you don't really do it. But what you have is Charlie saying to Clem with Banner off, she does say, listen, I don't really want to get rid of this. Like, this is what kind of makes me strong. I want to learn how to control it. Is there any way that you can, let me know or teach me how to control it? And they're walking around. And Charlie does say at one point, which is kind of funny, it's kind of a wink kind of deal. It's like, is this where we do the montage traded? Like, you're going to teach me. And she ends up where Clea says, that she goes, so what's the plan? Are we going to do a training montage or something? And you end up where Clea says, I suppose that is what Clea might have done. And this is the thing. This is not
like a nervous laugh.
Yeah.
Clea, whatever. I guess I'm confused.
Yeah. And
isn't Clea your name?
Exactly. This isn't Ricky Henderson, right? You wouldn't even know who that is, I don't think. But Ricky Henderson would always talk about himself. He's a baseball player. Unfortunately,
he's not in Grommets then.
R.I.P. He just passed. But it would have been around the time of Grommets. It would have been cool. But the idea where Ricky would end up where in interviews, it's like Ricky does this and Ricky had 3 hits, like he was always in the third. There's a lot of people like that. It always makes me laugh when people talk about themselves in the third person. But
it's a very Japanese thing as well. A lot of people do that, especially younger, children do that here. Yeah, they use their name.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird name conventions in Japan about what's proper and what's not and things like that I don't quite get how it works out, but it's worked out for a while, I guess. So it's good. Yeah. But all of a sudden, boom, it's not Clea. It's not Clea. And then even the idea of the witch Clea, like she's going to burn and all this. And I'm like, oh man, like I like Clea. I don't know how they ended up taking her down and getting in the Sanctum Sanctorum, but it ends up where it's pretty cool. And you even have the mention of Norgal, who was that, harmless little, they say harmless runtling in the woods, but they ended up doing things, heard what was happening. And when somebody hears, everybody does. The eldest hears as well. So you get this big, Lycana and eldest mention all these things, and they're going after Charlie and they're trying to get the skin back and even say that it doesn't last. You end up only having this for a little. There's no way to contain it. You're done. And then the werewolves come out, the Wolfmen. And the problem is, I did. Yeah, I did think at the one point, though, I think it's kind of a clever deal, but even I saw it coming like, oh, if those guys ate him, there's some big trouble for them. And that's the best when they come out and she's like, hey, you Banner's dead, right? They're like, yep, he's dead. And they're licking their chops. Like the idea of like, yep, he's dead. And
oh no, wait a minute, you didn't leave his dead body in that room, the gamma-free room where they're like, no.
Oh, he was great. I love the ideas. Like, did you take care of him? Well, we took care of him all right. They're rubbing their stomach. Like, we did a lot with him. So you end up where, they ate him. And she's like, you idiots. And now we get back. And we haven't had as much as this as we had at the very beginning, where you would have the transformation of Banner into Hulk, vice versa, where, you'd have Hulk rip out of Banner.
These are pretty awesome, aren't these panels, Jim? It's a double-page spread, by the way. The Wolfman doesn't look that good, but Hulk looks awesome breaking out.
Man. Yeah, and he's I love where he's like breaking out and his foot's going through the Wolfman's head. And then, he climbs out. And again, there's Charlie says, and even that, like, give me the Godskin. She's like, too late, Freako. He's coming and he's the strongest one. And you even have the, still the crap talk about the eldest has plans for the Hulk, and we saw some premonitions before, but they end up going to town. They end up, and even Charlie's joining in with the Godskin, and she's, shooting little bolts, and Hulk's bashing, and it looks great. It looks really good until you get to the one face that you sent me that then looks like, I don't know, some sea hag. It looks like the Hulk turns into
something that I couldn't name it.
It's a weird play.
A weird looking Hulk. Looks like a female version.
Yeah, it does. It looks like a female sea hag in my mind. They did mention the big window, which always does remind me of the Amityville Horror for some reason, which scared the pants off of me when I was a kid.
Oh my God.
I have told you, right, that I actually went to the house, the Amityville Horror house, the guy who is in the band. When I ended up in the band in college, the drummer lived next door. His dad was best friends with the kid who ended up killing his family. So they redid the house, but that movie scared the crap out of me. I'm talking the original. Not that Ryan Reynolds
watching it, Jim.
Oh my God.
I was really young. I had to walk out of the room.
Yeah, same here. We're about the same age. I ended up, my mom made me watch it, and I was just terrified. I thought that I was being possessed afterwards, but I actually got to go in the house and scared the crap out of me. I ended up where they have a thing where every, because he was from Amityville, and every Halloween people try to find the house. Yeah. And so what they would end up doing as kids, they were told that everybody in the neighborhood was told if they say, oh, it's like 3 blocks down to the right, then they would just send them other ways. But I actually got to go in the house. It scared the crap out of me. It didn't even look the same. Scared the crap. I swear to God, I thought the walls were going to bleed. All these flies and nonsense.
It was the flies at the window. It could be the window that got me.
Oh, it's so scary. So you end up where she gets tossed into the window, which they even talked about in the beginning. So it's kind of that bookend deal. But the big play of this is, hey, fractured son, Hulk, the eldest is still living, still coming after you. You're not going to be able to get away. Away you go. And you end up where it looks like they're just crashing out. They're like out of the Sanctum Sanctorum.
I wasn't quite sure what happened here to this weird creature thing. Does she get squashed or not?
Yeah, it looks like she does, but then she's like everybody's hit by lightning.
Yeah,
I like
from above.
The best is look at Charlie's hair because of the static electricity. It's
pretty
all
cool.
over the place. It's pretty
nice
cool.
Little detail. Yeah,
you can see the Hulk, not the non-static electricity hair. Probably so greasy, but you end up
a bit like Ram V's luscious
exactly.
locks.
I mean, luscious locks. So once you see that it's lightning, you kind of get who it would be, and it is, and ends up saying, "Hey, surrender." And the whole play of
I thought it was allies, Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. And nice says that the foul creature, born from the defiled bones of my kin. That's unfortunately Charlie now.
The beast named
Lycana, and laced your fate be yours as well, and it's Thor pretty pissed off. So that's pretty crazy. Again, it feels like it's getting bigger in a different way. Like you're having guest stars. Not that we had Doctor Strange, but they were going to see him. You get Clea, but she's not there. I wanted them to go and maybe find Clea, but in the meantime, you have Thor I'm again, you have a big 25, and then I think that you kind of wrap this up.
I'm just looking at the cover for the next issue, 25. It looks like it's going to be a big battle, doesn't it? Thor versus Hulk.
Yeah, it looks awesome. Now, again, say at 30 you end the Charlie. It'd be weird then to just start a new arc. You've been with this story for so long, the eldest, and all this stuff that when it ends, it just feels like it will all end and we'll start, you'll get a new creative team just because it's been so long. It just feels like an odd thing to go through all this and then, okay, now we're going to start with something new. So I do think that we'll end up having a bit of a change. And I think that this will be one of those where I think for a while, maybe people will be like, oh, that's kind of cool. I think it will read better later on. As I do, especially if you read,
you talk about as well. And I don't read trades very often either, Jim. So, reading for the trade, but I think this would work if you just go through the whole, 20 issues.
And I'm not going to say that it'll be like the big thing a year after it's done or 2 years, but I think eventually, what will happen is people will be reading The Immortal Hulk a lot in trade, right? That's the big Al Ewing. That's huge. That's the biggest thing that's been in Hulk for quite some time. And then afterwards, they're going to want to know what to read next. And I do not think they're going to read Starship Hulk Donny Cates stuff. No. That was a wreck. And it ended up like just odd. So from there, I think that they'll end up skipping to this. And I think it will end up becoming a bit, popular down the line a little from now that it's, hey, this is a long form story. It's pretty cool. I think that it'll work out in the end, years from now or whatnot, because of what it is and how, focused it was on this one thing. But like you said, I think that when a thing is long like this, like maybe the Daredevil stuff that we'll be getting to next, maybe that's, 7 Deadly Sins will even work out better.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, I'm tempted to go back and read that.
Yeah. And again, I kind of got bored with that as well. But who knows if you get right through it. I did catch up with quite a few issues, and it was okay. But at the end of this, that sets up the big 25. Thor versus Hulk. You get a versus deal, which Hulk is always involved with, so that's pretty cool. But what would you give it?
I enjoyed the second half of this issue very, much more than the first half. Really good, strong finish. The art got better as it went on. So, I'm trying to think. I'm going to go a strong 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I want to go 8. But I think, I see that's the thing. I'm going to go 8. There's a little wink, wink. I mean, we have our best of at the end of the week, and I think this is one of the better issues that I read. It's not the greatest, but I still ended up liking it enough. But now I feel weird. Maybe a 7, 8. I don't know. I'll just go 8. I'll be positive.
But weird.
I'll be positive and give it an 8 because I really wanted to see how this happened with Clea, what they did to Clea, because Clea, in my mind, is such a badass that there's no way you're tricking her. There's no way that you're just taking her down, but, some of the things are hand-waved to get the twist. And I was kind of surprised when you ended up getting to it. But we'll move to the next issue, which is an issue that not only you, Jerome, got a bunch of people got a hold of me and like, oh, man, you got to review this Daredevil. It's really good. It's hot. And then when you get into it, I'm like, yeah, I see how hot it is. It's hot, all right. It's steamy hot. It's Daredevil number 20. And it is Rights of Reconciliation, Part 1, Saladin Ahmed writing, Jose Luis Cerez on pencils, Oren Jr. on inks, Jesus Urbatov on colors, VC's Clayton Coles on letters. And you had a lot of story in that whole deal with one deal of the 7 Deadly Sins. And we finally end that. The repercussions of that are, what's it called? Bullseye done. And this is kind of wearing on Matt, but also he says Foggy. You have all these things. He hasn't really talked to Foggy lately, and now he's hooked up with an old flame that gets sexy, and we see side boob that you ended up mentioning to me. I'm like, holy moly. And some guy this week on Twitter was arguing with me that he wanted to say that he read the comics, but I think he only watched movies, so he ends up like, every Marvel comic is just for little kids, and they have their jokes and this. I'm like, I think you're talking about James Gunn Marvel. You're not talking about the comics, because the comics at Marvel, there is a lot more killing. There is a lot more blood in my mind than the DC stuff. And this, holy moly.
Recently, not just this, Jim. Do you remember that the current Sabretooth miniseries? I think I put a comment on Twitter, and the writer actually liked it and said, "Oh, I like the sound of that, making Marvel sexy again." That's what I said.
Remember that was
good.
because me and Sully talked about it. Then you jumped on because it was cool. Yeah, we reviewed it. I like that book.
It's a good series.
And it's Gangs of New York with Sabretooth, which I felt bad saying. And then Frank Thierry, who writes it, said, no, that was the pitch. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, it is. It's getting sexy in here.
It's sexy and Daredevil. Just to shout out, you've already given the credits, I know, but I hadn't first realised it's a new artist on this, the Jose Luis Suarez. There's a penciler and Orange Junior inks. The art is excellent from the start. Look at this.
That first page is great, where it's a nightmare that Matt's having of, this whole deal of Wrath chasing down Bullseye. And Bullseye. You realize, I think there's the play here, and as it goes, you even have later, in Matt's nightmare, Bullseye does not look threatening. Bullseye actually looks like a kid in my mind. Almost looks like a little kid. I think it was. I think it's supposed to be this play.
He's got
of
almost
him.
like a cutesy face.
Yeah. Later on, it even looks like his outfit doesn't fit him. Like he's a little kid who put on a big boy pants or something. And I think that you're supposed to get that idea of poor Bullseye, you're supposed to feel bad that he ended up just getting obliterated. And
he's begging for his life, isn't he, in the nightmare, of course? I'm so sorry, I'll be good, I swear. So that's what a kid would say, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that the whole play and Matt thinking of that, the idea where Bullseye's a piece of crap, one of the worst pieces of crap in all of comics. He reminds me of Zaz at DC. There's no getting past the idea that they are just awful. They will kill children. They'll do whatever, and then it's kind of making Matt feel bad because he was so vulnerable. And it was Matt's fault. I mean, it's Matt's fault where the 7 deadly sins were there, trying to do that, and he had to exorcise them from everyone. And Matt had that idea, maybe I could just let this go, and you might think that a lot of people would be happy and their lives are saved because of Bullseye being dead, but you can't do that as a hero. And obviously, even in the Chip Zdarsky thing, Matt doesn't like the killings. So you end up where he's there with this woman. They're getting reacquainted in a biblical way. And even the play of hey, what is this all about? And she's like, listen, if I want to kick you out, I will. But I kind of like having some adult time and we could knock some boots. But by the way, go get me a coffee. And he goes,
they bumped into each other in a bar, haven't seen each other in years. That's what he was saying. Had a good time. I love this panel here, Jim, where they're snogging at the bar, and the barman's
the barman's oh my goodness, I think he's a hateful man. That guy. Of course, he's a bartender, so he's cleaning a glass with a dirty rag. So she's there, and I do have to admit, while this is going on, I was kind of looking is there some weird stuff? I was afraid that she might be tricking him. Because of the idea that he is oh man, I haven't done this in a while. And it's kind of a sin or whatever. I was looking, she has some paintings and things up on the wall. And I was thinking, okay, if there's some markings or something that she's again continuing, but it's not. It seems like she's just,
she's no flame, Nyla Skin, apparently. She first appeared when Ann Nesenti was writing it back in the day.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want a visual, if you're not reading it, looks like Storm. That's kind of who she looks like, even with the haircut, the way it is. Storm has had that haircut at points too. So what I'm saying is she's hot. And I like where Matt goes to get this coffee. And then as he's walking away, he is thinking of Elektra, who's still, doing her Daredevil stuff. And I think it's Erica Schultz who has that deal where she is off trying to track down Fisk because Fisk ended up in these 7 deadly sins with greed.
I missed that, Jim, completely. Yeah.
Ended up finding God, and you even have him. And
that's
and
crazy, isn't it? If Kingpin would do that.
Look at him there. Yeah, and he says it's on the up and up. He really did, and he got a hold of all his guys, and then he left. He was out. And so Matt comes back with the coffee, and this lady comes up and says, "Hey, have you seen this girl? Has a phone now?"
She's my daughter. Have you seen her? She's missing.
I like the idea that the lady's so distraught that she doesn't get that he's got glasses on and a walking stick. He's got and he's
he has to tell her, doesn't he? I can't see it, but if you send it to me, I could show it around.
I like that he's nice enough. He's not lady, I'm blind. I can't see shit. He's I can't really see that. I'm supposing I'm supposing you're holding something up for me to look at. If it's the girl's picture, whatever, I will go around and figure out. And she starts itching as she goes. And it's so like framed that you know something's up with that.
You know
right?
that is setting something up for later, isn't it? Yeah, suddenly the scratch, scritch, scratch.
Basically what happens, or she's on heroin. Either or is what happens. You end up finding out that there's something wrong. And one of the plays in this is that, you know, his flame ends up talking about, hey, this is like the greatest thing ever. And even Matt says this whole, you know, this apartment complex, it's new. It's near the subway. It's everything is like perfect. It's almost too perfect, he says, which we find out that it is. They're trying to lure some people into this to try to get, you know, people as a victims of what we see. And Nyla is the name of the girl. I keep saying his flame, but Nyla is
What's
the one.
What's it called as well? The place, that's it. Propertunity Tower, Jim.
Yeah,
I mean, with a name like that. Come
exactly.
On.
I mean, and it
Come
just
on, man.
happens that Matt's kind of shacking up with Nyla, so he's there. But he also ends up where he says, because of his, you know, super senses and all that, because of all the bloodshed, because of all the things that he just recently did, he doesn't want to put on his old outfit. So he goes back to the old outfit. He goes back to the black armor. It's okay. We just ended up having that mini with the black armor, and it was just based on that, and that was not good. So it's okay. I actually thought somebody was going to say, when he goes to like talk to a couple people, I thought originally when he goes and talks to that couple, that they were going to say something like, man, you look pretty cool in that kick-ass outfit, because he's got the shoulder pads. It ends up, I don't like the shoulder pads.
I don't like the shoulder pads and the leg armor. It looks weird.
Yeah. I said what it reminds me of. I said this in that mini by Chichester, I think it was recently. That it reminds me of the Jesse Ventura outfit that they put on in Running Man when he's ripping it off and he's like, I don't need this crap. And he's throwing it up.
I think me and you might have reviewed just one of them, and I couldn't stand it. I just could not get into that at all.
Good. It was not good. And again, the outfit, does it wow you?
No,
it doesn't me either. So a whole miniseries based on, hey, the outfit, I don't mind it here, but it's kind of a cool play for him to say, yeah, I'm kind of not liking the deal. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. But he goes and basically asks two people, a couple, hey, do you see this girl? No. Okay, I'm going to go kick some ass. And then even goes where, I don't even get this. This is the weirdest scene.
A drunken scruffle or something, a scuffle, isn't it? Who are these guys? Where are they?
I don't know that Saladin Ahmed, I don't get it. Like he says, somewhere in there, I subdue a pack of day drunks roaming the kitchen in search of men to fight and women to harass. These guys are all dressed in suits. It looks like they just got off of like the trading floor, got drunk, and now they're looking for a brawl. It seemed weird.
Well, for Patrick Bateman, obviously.
It seemed odd. This seems like if it was in England, you'd have, you know, some hooligans. You'd have guys that, you know, are local toughs that can't find a job like back in the 90s. And all that nonsense. But these guys are like, hey, now that we're drunk in our suits, let's go fight somebody and harass ladies. It felt weird.
Like just went out on the lunch break, you know, and got hammered at the bar. Like, okay, we've got like 10 minutes before we got to get back to work. Let's have a fight.
Let's go fight people and grab ass. Like, even the idea of the excellent, somewhere in there, I subdue a pack of day drunks roaming the kitchen in search of men to fight, women to harass.
It's weird. It's a weird language, isn't it? It's weird writing.
It's very odd just to have this fight. But these guys legit, I don't know. I don't know what he was going with there. It was very, very odd. And again, if it was
Matt Daredevil, he's looking in on Foggy, isn't he? He's checking in on his best friend.
He does. And he says that, you know, Foggy was pissed when he came back and didn't go right to him to tell him, hey, I was alive. And then also the bit with Bullseye, also that it's, you know, going. And he says, I can hear the guilt in Foggy's heartbeat, even from across the street. And Foggy looks like he's looking out the window, too, but doesn't see Matt right across the street. He's probably looking out for them day drunks, the roaming band of day drunks that are causing issues. Then he goes in, I like where then he goes in the bar, and he's like, these guys are bad, but not like stealing children bad. So I know that they'll give me some info. And he just beats the crap out.
This reminds me of that. It takes back to the old Batman stories, you know, where I used to go into the ruffians bar and just go and beat everyone up till he got answers. Yeah.
I like that he beats the crap out of him. Then he shows him the picture. really? Like, maybe go in and say, listen, I know you guys are all pieces of crap. Not like those roaming day drunks, though, those guys. But here we go. Do you know who this is? And they go, hey, man, I don't know what you're talking about. We don't talk to Daredevil. And then he beats him up. And then they say, but it looks like he just walks in and starts knocking heads in. Like, all right, he's
Throw
in.
some fists first, ask questions later.
Exactly. So he goes and basically ends up where he says, anybody, know about any of this? And then they're like, wait a minute. This is in this Propertunity Towers.
Propertunity Towers,
yeah,
Jim.
And it's like,
Just
that's
rolls
right.
off the tongue.
Oh, yeah. And he's like, man, my brother disappeared from there last week. I'm like, well, are you looking for him? You're just hanging in this bar. You want to go find them day drunks? And then the bartender's like, the old lady we pay to clean up around here, she was going on and on about that place and then just disappeared. We haven't seen her.
Hang on a minute. It's like everyone they know, has disappeared in that tower.
What it ends up reminding me of, it's the cantina in New Hope and Star Wars. Later on, you even have like Tales of the Cantina, one of the expanded universe books. Everybody in that damn cantina was there for one reason, and Luke and Obi, like nobody was there just having a drink. So yeah, everybody's like, hey, you mean the lady who was cleaning up? Well, my sister's cousin's uncle. I think that they lived in there too. Like everybody
the little cute one, Jim, that like squeaked was like, it was like up at the bar. Give me.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the one. He was there for a drink.
Maybe you could have had like one of the guys like itching. Like, I live there. I have no problems. And he's scratching. But
scratching away, yeah.
Matt had mentioned again that he couldn't wear the old costume because he could still feel the blood, even though it was cleaned and things. It was that whole play, like out spot. But you end up where he even starts itching. But at one point, he thinks back. That's where I think, like, now Bullseye's full out 12 years old. And he's wearing somebody else's outfit because it looks
panel.
like,
I can see
it looks like he's
weird.
such like he's a little kid the
Little
way he's
kid
thinking
running
to
from
make
this
him look
monster.
so helpless. So, and he thinks of the nightmares that messed up my nights. He ends up scratching and itching, and he's like, I don't know what's going on, but I got to keep on going. I'm not sleeping very well. And then he goes back, and he's going to change. He's going to end up going back, and he knows that Nyla, she's not there, so he goes in the window, still scratching. And
he ends up his whole uniform, hasn't he? His outfit's on, just taking his mask off, and he can hear somebody at the door, possibly.
And they're at the door. So he ends up going, it's like, I'm going to put one of these robes on. He's got a lot of like white clothes there.
He does. Jim, how crazy is this though? All he does is like he just throws a robe over the rest of the costume.
On.
He doesn't worry about the armor, the shoulder
no, he doesn't care. He's there with the armor on under. So he puts this on. And when he goes to put on the deal and kind of, pulls up his arm, because it's weird because he does grab the robe. He still has his outfit on, but somehow now he can see his arm. Before the armor was full out. You even have that, stick there. But he ends up seeing. Yeah. And he's got a bunch of fungus among us.
Oh my God.
It's like awful.
Mushrooms growing on his arm.
Look at that. He's like, my God. And then he ends up where it puffs out like
this
a
is
gas.
weird though, because he can't see, can he? Obviously he's blind, but he must be able to sense it. He looks like he's looking at his arm going, oh my God. But
and he feels it, I guess. It's just mushrooms and stuff, and then they kind of shoot out a gas, and he ends up like, and he passes out. And the guys that were at the door, they come in, and they're in full hazmat suits. Like, okay, that works. Let's get him. He's out cold.
Jim? Geiger, I thought it was a scene from Geiger.
Really, it does look like it. It even has like that crazy gas. Yeah. Be funny. He's a glowing man. And they're like, all right, like this guy's vitals are still good. Man, we could really use him for what we're doing. And then ends up where they pick him up like, man, this guy's heavy. Oh, man, I think he has some BDSM bondage
God, he's
gear.
got some bondage gear under these clothes.
So funny.
Right, of course we get the freak.
Yeah, they think it's bondage gear. They don't see the big Daredevil symbol or anything.
DD on the side
yeah, it has it on the chest there. On this one, I think they'd see it. They're like, let's go. Let's throw him in the basement. And then they just toss him
with
the basement. And in that, when they do toss him in, it doesn't even look like he has his leg stuff either. Like I thought he just threw that robe over everything. Suddenly it looks like he doesn't have everything on, but he gets tossed in. You even see the lady. And you even see Nissa's there as new.
Is that Nyla?
Yeah, Nyla. I'm sorry. Yeah, Nyla's there. You see the lady,
girl, the daughter. Yeah,
the deal, and a bunch of other people. I'm guessing one of those is the person who was cleaning up the bar.
Yeah, where's the cleaning lady?
I think it's like right in the middle. It's her. But the idea when you go in there, how do you kind of come back from this? They're all like mushroom people. Like, can you be cured for that? It's so weird. But they toss him in this basement deal, and it's just overrun. So that's a pretty
freaky,
crazy ending,
it's
right?
got a little bit like dark horror Daredevil.
It even looks like with the colors not as pop, but almost like Hulk stuff. The way that they play it, that it might end up like that, especially at the end with that gas and things like that. So it's pretty crazy. I mean, it was pretty good. It was one of the better issues this week. So if people haven't been reading or you fell off it, it's a pretty cool time to come back. It's easy to jump back in. It's all a new arc that's
it is
jumping on point. So I think that people should kind of check it out. What would you give it?
I really enjoyed it, even with some of the little bit clunky dialogue at times. Love the art, the new artist, good story. So I'm going to go 8.5, Jim, for this.
I'm an 8.5 too. I liked it, so I'm in. I hope that it keeps up and kind of goes pretty quick. Doesn't last 20 issues with the fungus among us. It looks like it's got some progression though going.
Yeah.
So even here, you end up from the beginning to the end. There's a lot going on, so I don't think it's going to hang around quite like 19 issues of the
really
7 deadly sins.
As you say, a lot goes on in here as well, but it does set things up nicely for new readers. You can catch up.
Yeah, which is good. And you just ended.
I like Daredevil. I've always liked Daredevil.
You ended up an overlong arc. Give people a chance to jump on it if they want to. And they'll go back and read what they missed and things like that. But I think it's good.
He's done that. His Detective Comics run.
Yeah, really. That would have been awesome. He just kept going. But yeah, so I really liked it. One of the better issues that I've read so far. I haven't read everything yet this week, but it's another weird week. There's always weird weeks anymore with DC, but Marvel doesn't have as many books this week. There weren't a ton of books.
No, surprisingly.
Usually they have like 40 books, it seems, and this week it's a little tighter. So
and 40 of those are usually X books, aren't they?
Yeah, really. I'm telling you, X books and weird, crazy stuff. So we'll have to see what it is. But thanks for joining me, Gray.
Cheers,
there's a chance that I'm going to go off and review one more issue, but if not, thanks for joining me, Gray. And Gray did jump on. We're doing a more expanded deal. I'm going to have some extra stuff and make it more in line with the DC podcast, which we end up doing each week as well. So thanks, everybody. And thank you, Gray. But I'm going to be off to whatever. And that is it for the show. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And actually, thanks also, not actually, but thank also to Matt and Gray for joining me. And as I said at the beginning, there's not a lot of books this coming week. So what I think that we'll be talking about is Godzilla vs. Hulk #1. And there is a deal. And as I'm recording this, we are a little late this week. So I'm getting ready to record the next week's episode as we're ending this. And I did ask Matt if he wanted to do Superior Avengers #1. So I think we'll be doing those two. And then I'm going to add in the Doctor Strange of Asgard. So unfortunately, we'll get 3 books. And I may end up talking to some people, maybe adding some other things, because there is some Cable Love and Chrome #4 is coming out. Sam Wilson, Captain America #4, something that I haven't been reading, but I'm willing to jump on. You have Iron Man #7 that I haven't met anybody who likes this. And then things like Web of Venomverse, Fresh Brains #1, and Power Man Timeless #3. And a lot of X books. So we'll see. We'll see what we are going to do. I'll try to get as many books out there as we can. But again, this is a work in progress, trying to expand the Marvel podcast while also trying to do and maintain everything else that we end up doing, including the DC stuff and our Patreon. If you are, wanting to hear some other things, mostly, what the Marvel stuff, a lot of it is just here, but we end up doing other things. And in fact, me and Matt are doing our events podcast, our events crossover podcast, where we're talking about Frank Miller's Born Again because of the TV show. So that's something that you can go if you're a Marvel fan. But with all that, thank you so much. And we will talk to you later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.